Robert Platshorn, you're not in prison no more. You're at the Seattle Hempfest. You were featured in a High Times issue recently about your time in prison. Talk about your time in prison and why you were in prison.
I was the first really huge marijuana bust in South Florida, the Black Tuna Gang. We never knew we were a gang and certainly didn't know we were the Black Tunas, but the government has to give everything a name. And I was the first person prosecuted under the Kingpin laws, the 848 statute, and was sentenced to 64 years in prison for a nonviolent marijuana offense. I was the guy who was bringing in that Colombian gold and sending it up to New York and Chicago and Minnesota and just about every place else. And at the time, we thought marijuana was about to be legalized in the 70s. It looked like it. But instead of maybe the 5 years that I thought we were risking, I got a 64-year sentence, most of it non-parolable, and served 30 years. I started out in the Supermax in Marion, where Gotti died. Very scary place. They built that to replace Alcatraz. And slowly worked my way down to a regular penitentiary at Lewisburg, then a medium-level FCI and a low-level FCI. And before you knew it, 22 years, that's all it took, I worked my way all the way down to a camp, which is what I should have been in to begin with, because I had no record, no violence associated with the case.
You became a master garnish chef in prison?
I became a garnish chef. I actually garnished a dinner for President Bush. Had I known what I was garnishing for,
you would have included some surprises.
Well, I suspect I'd have just turned it down. But at the time, I was at Eglin Air Force Base. After 22 years in penitentiaries, I made the camp at Eglin, and I was a garnish chef on the Air Force Base. I garnished all the generals' dinners and soirees and the luncheons, and when they said they're having a big dinner and they wanted me to do my thing, they weren't going to tell me who it was anyway. When the president travels to those places, it's never announced and rarely mentioned afterwards. So I didn't know until the following morning that I had created these squash birds and apple birds and huge roses made out of potatoes and vegetables.
Now, have you carried this on into your civilian life now?
I still do a little. I just finished an infomercial. My best friend, Chef Crowley, wrote the world's most successful garnishing book, The Fine Art of Garnish. And he and I did an infomercial. But I used to be a pitchman. If you look at the rare cover of my book, there's an endorsement from Billy Mays he made the day before he died. He said, Bobby Platshorn is a legend in the pitch business. I used to be the guy on TV that sold the Ginsu knives.
Prior to your incarceration?
Oh, long prior to. I earned my way through college. Seattle World's Fair, I was the Vitamix guy, and that paid for my first year in college. I sold the Vitamix and made the health pitch.
Well, how are you enjoying your freedom now? And talk about your book.
My book is called Black Tuna Diaries. It starts out when I joined my first gang at the age of 3 in Philadelphia. Through my acting career when I was in high school and played second lead in a Tennessee Williams play that ran for over a year. And then I became a pitchman on the boardwalk of Atlantic City, the same place as Billy Mays, Ed McMahon. We all worked out of the same open window on the boardwalk, and that's where all the greatest pitchmen came from.
So where's home originally, Philadelphia?
I was born and raised in Philadelphia. I graduated high school in New Jersey and then went to college in Miami, University of Miami. And speaking of the University of Miami, the ESPN special, The U, that was up, that was done by Raconteur Films, the people who did Cocaine Cowboys, and they've made a movie based on my book. We've just finished it up. I'm in the movie. It's called Square Grouper, and it'll be released at the Cup in Amsterdam.
Well, Roger Platshorn, thanks so much for bringing Lambo to northern Minnesota. I think I had some at a Grand Funk Railroad concert, if I do recall. And once again, mention your book and how people can get a hold of your book.
Black Tuna Diaries. You can get it from Amazon. online, not in the stores. But better buy it directly, and I will sign it and dedicate it. You can put the instructions on it on the web, blacktunadiaries.com. And when you order it, there's a place for special instructions. You can ask me to dedicate it.
Robert, thank you very much.
My pleasure. This is like being in heaven after 30 years of prison. The Seattle Hempfest is really something special. I used to work the Minnesota State Fair, too. And the home show in Minneapolis. And the flower show in Minneapolis.
Fantastic. Thanks, Robert.
Thank you.